seagulls follow the trawl, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. I've never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
It's the breakfast bar. I feel like I just literally parked the bus a minute ago and then jumped back in and set it off again. But good morning, everyone. It's the breakfast bar. It's Wednesday morning, 8:36 a.m. Not bad, not bad. We're still waiting on the arrival of our diva, Regan. He'll be on at some point soon. We are joined today by the Logue traders. We've got Johnny Logue back after a week absence and David Logue below us, who just loves these morning shifts. How are we both doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, all good. All good. Just managed to just jump on the bus there. Almost missed it.
Don't worry about that, mate. You made it. You made it. We're just waiting a wee bit longer at the bus stop. Don't you worry. Right, okay. So we're going to be talking about a few things. Giakoumakis' destination now looks a wee bit more likely. It's getting closer and closer. There's a wee bit of insight on one of the other channels that I was watching last night. Sounds like he could be quite an exciting signing. And obviously we're going to talk about as well the new, obviously we used to have with the Double Down show, we used to have, double down, back down, or flip it. Well, flip it, Celtic seem to have picked up on. And we're going to be talking about how players are not lasting as long under Ange's watch at the club and how we all feel about it. Because it does definitely feel like we're heading into a new era that we're all going to need to get used to. Now, before we get started on all of that, it's time for all that good stuff, which means if you've not hit subscribe, hit subscribe. We want to hit 3.3 today. Why not? If you want to like the show, amazing. That gets us loads of traction on the channel. And if you want to share it on your socials, awesome. Keep the live chat busy because we might need talking points at some point. You never know. There's only so much nonsense I can spout on here. And also, if you want to become a Bhoycie'S member, like Martin Kay, like Boz to the Walls, like Patrick McLaughlin, like Hale Times 2, like Kevin 14, like Belly, just to name a few, then the option is there. It is completely free content. It just supports the channel. And keep your eyes peeled because and we are going to set up in the next week or so, or maybe a week or two, we're going to try and get a football shirt full design done. And we'll commit to some numbers to the sportswear company S66. and we'll get some orders placed for that, which is all very exciting because the template idea we've got right now is smart as. Anyway, Johnny, I'll come to you. You've been off, missing in action for 2 weeks, mate. I've done about 400 shows in that time. You've been slacking, big man.
Yeah, that pesky thing called work kind of interfered with things a little bit last week. I had to do an early stint last week, so so missed the bus. Managed to catch up with it about 9:45. I watched it back. Great show as always, lads. But yeah, looking forward to getting back on the back in the driving seat. Well, yes. I'm not going to kick you out of the driving seat. I'll be the conductor.
You're fine, mate. Don't worry about that. You can do the talking. It's absolutely fine. Right, Johnny. What's been happening is Celtic have obviously committed to selling Giakoumakis. We knew this for a wee while now. It was seeming obvious. I want to see it from the player's point of view right now. I know there's another rumour going about, which I think a few of the sites have picked up when I was on the Celtic News website earlier on, that a podcaster from the other pod, I believe, but he's been saying, that he's got the intel. Oh, there he is. Say it again.
Right, lads. Lads, how you doing? I'm loud and clear. I didn't need to move the mic.
Just pull it a wee bit away for you and you'll be jamming. That's it. Don't need to go miles.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Is that better now?
You're sorted, mate. You're sorted. I'll come to you in a wee second, Regan. Right? Good to see you, though, young man. Looking great.
No bother. I've got a few talking points for us anyway if I'm struggling for talking points as well.
Oh, I love it. But, Johnny, just what I was saying there, right? I think the destination of where Giakoumakis is right now, you could say the same about Juranovic, with it being Union Berlin, 20,000 fans, not the most fashionable of the clubs, and then Giakoumakis going to the MLS at 28. Neither of them seem to have left Celtic and went to, really exciting clubs or clubs that you could go, well, how could they resist that? Do you know what I mean? I'm a wee bit surprised at that. I think once the decision's made for them, and they've maybe been batting their eyelids at potential moves to what they thought could have been, the elite of Europe, as it were, and then that's fallen through. Maybe there is no way back, like the blogger's saying. I mean, or the podcaster guy's saying. I mean, he's saying that he apparently Gigi wanted to rework his ticket under Andrew. He was like, no, I'm back. I'm going to work hard and get back in the team. And Andrew's having none of it. How much I believe of that, I don't really know. I've got no reason not to believe him. No reason to believe him either. But I think both players, if you told me on the 1st of January, one would be going to Union Berlin of Germany, who are apparently having a good season. But let's be honest, you're not one of the first names that spring to mind when you're listing off German clubs. And that Giakoumakis would be going to MLS. I would have been a wee bit, really? I wouldn't have thought so, guys,
Yeah, I think if we go with what you were saying about the other podcaster first, it wouldn't surprise me if I'm being honest, because Ange said in the past he's not going to bust a gut generally to try and get somebody to convince somebody to come to Celtic. And I think if you show the slightest inclination of you don't expect a player who's not playing to be happy. But if you start rocking the boat sort of motions that you might want to leave if things aren't, you're not 100% committed, I think Ange might just say, well, that's fine, mate. You go and find somewhere else. The places they've gone, I can imagine Celtic supporters all over the world would have been scrambling for the internet to find out a bit more about Union Berlin and where they are in the German league standings. And as it turns out, they're doing reasonably well. They're sitting third or fourth in the league. So he's gone to what I think we'd all have to accept as a higher profile league, probably earning a few quid more, but not really the club that you'd have thought somebody would have been looking to go to. But then again, I've never really read anything about them. They might be an ambitious club. They might be spending some money. They might be getting a decent team together, and they've batted their eyes at him, and he's taking them up on it. And good luck to him. And he's the type of player. We discussed it before with Juranovic. If we were to choose one first-team player to leave that we wouldn't necessarily miss and we'd get over quickly, it's him. And to be honest, we have got over him already. He's not the type of player that's moved on and I'm going to keep an eye on how his career goes and how he's doing. Thanks for your time, mate. You've done a decent job. You won't be looked back on in 5 years' time the way some other players who've been at the club in roughly the same period of time as yourself. But thanks anyway. On you go and have, enjoy your life. And
what about Giacomakis to America on that same point, Johnny?
Well, see, the difference there is that's not what you would call an established league. I mean, that's traditionally it's been the sort of league that we've sent, the likes of what's his name? Was it Lewis Morgan that went there? And they'll have a good life. Have a good life, but it's not what you would call high profile, is it? I mean, we're not gathering around our televisions to watch Miami, whoever, and
Sky Sports News thinks it's a good enough league to put more money into that league than they do ours.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that they haven't, but I mean, I don't watch it, and I don't know any of my mates that anybody I know down here that says, "Oh, did you watch the American football last night?" What Miami Dolphins? No, the other one, the real one. No, I didn't watch that either.
He'd do all right in the NFL, Giacomakis, I reckon.
He probably would. I don't know if he'd be a goal kicker, but he'd do all right with everyone else, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Regan, it's, Juranovic and Giacomakis, it's not just the destinations they're going to, it's the fees they're leaving for. I think if we suggested that would have been their fees in December, that both those first team players are going to leave. One's going to go to the MLS. One's going to go to Union Berlin, who I know Johnny's making a fair case for them there. But as I say, if you rewind to December and you'd heard that name, I think we'd all been like, what? I thought it was Atletico Madrid, Barcelona and stuff. And for Giacomakis, even then, I think if you'd said to me Atlanta United, I would have said no chance. I think if you'd said you'd get your money back for Giacomakis approximately, and you would get $7.5 million for Juranovic, considering all the reports during that World Cup time, and the fever that was going on, it was going to be, 20-25 million pounds. I mean, I think when you look at it now, both the destinations and the fees suggest that whatever has happened in the run-up to these transfers, the players themselves have showed a willingness to leave. And Ange is definitely like, okay, but now that I've seen that chink in your armour, that's it. There's no coming back from it. It's done. And he's willing to just get the money in and flip the position.
Yeah, and I think that just shows that Ange's got a very ruthless streak as well, and that's what you need as a Celtic manager. Because if Giacomakis and if Juranovic think that going to Berlin and Atlanta, I know they're better lifestyles here than Glasgow, because I know I'd rather be in Berlin and Atlanta, Russell, but I don't know if it's Twitter hype as well. I mean, people were saying that Juranovic was worth £30 million on Twitter, so I don't know if we've just overinflated him.
Well, I think there is an element of that. I agree with that. I think there is an element of that too.
Because I don't know if it was like, we should keep Juranovic and all that, and we should, he's the best right back ever to grace for Celtic. I mean, are these people serious? Mikael Lustig, who was there for 10 plus, 7 plus seasons or whatever, and I don't think he got as much praise in 7 years as Juranovic got in 2 years. That's my honest opinion, and I think that's because Twitter's full of 14, 15, 19-year-olds that are just Juranovic is absolutely brilliant. He's I met him at Morrison's last night, and he was so good to deal with. And, my granddad met him at the petrol station last week. And I don't know if it's because they're building a wee reputation for themselves. Like, I seen this guy put up on Twitter. He's like, "Oh, I met the new signing Johnson at IKEA. He was so good to deal with." Did you guys see that? And I didn't
see that one. No,
he's Canadian. They're all good to deal with.
And I'm like, for goodness sake, these people. I know it's a great thing to be, but a Celtic player, but it must be so annoying to have to deal with so many idiots, as if you're a god walking around IKEA, and but no, I don't know if I've just overinflated these guys too much, or if we're actually being realistic, because when you look at Juranovic, I mean, I was astounded for David to tell me that he'd only two assists for a Celtic right back, and I'm not going to downplay that, David or Russell or Johnny, but I think if you're a Celtic right back, you'd be expecting more than that, surely.
Well, considering the type of football we play, the amount of goals we've scored in that period of time, I would have thought he'd have probably set up a few more. David, the destination isn't really, to be honest, our concern. I was just looking at it from a bit of intrigue, that is that where they would have expected in December when their eyes would maybe lighting up at some of the links for them? Is that where they thought their next move would be? And I wonder if all round, there's been quite a lot to learn from with these two transfers. I think Regan's right. I think from the fans' point of view, we maybe overinflated our ideas of what these guys are viewed at in the marketplace and in the bigger leagues. I think the players themselves maybe fell for a wee bit of their own hype and the nonsense that their agents fill their head with, and maybe thought they'd be off to pastures new that we're going to be competing for major honours in Europe and things like that. And all boils down to is the second hand sees a chink in the armour, you're out.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Giakoumakis' history, I mean, obviously he had a very good season with VV Venlo. He's scoring 29 goals in 33 appearances, but we keep looking at this Lon Shackland and going, well, look how many penalties he's scored. And that always comes into our argument that he's nowhere near Kyogo's standard in our league. So when you want to use that argument against Giakoumakis' goal scoring record for VV Venlo, then where do we sit with that? Because I think he scored about 9 or 10 penalties. So still 19 goals in open play in the Eredivisie is obviously still very good. But then you look at the
Eredivisie, David. Eredivisie.
The Eredivisie. Other than that, 3 goals in 12 appearances, 3 goals in 32 appearances for AK Athens. The only other purple patch had was 15 goals for a Greek side. I'm not going to try and pronounce their name. It's too early for that. Still going to Eredivisie, never mind whatever that name is. So maybe that's maybe what the and then you have to take into consideration, right? Okay, well, yes, you did set top goal scorer in half a season for Scotland. However, we need to take into consideration, why did you only play half a season? He was injured through half the season. These come into considerations when people look to, who is wanting to sign him. And now he's still, despite that, still can't get ahead of Kyogo in the pecking order for whatever reason, whether it's to do with favouritism or the fact that Kyogo's scoring 20 goals by January. He's still our second choice striker, and that all comes into consideration when teams are looking at him. And maybe that's, again, I think it was Mark tweeted today, said he's far better than that, as in moving to Atlanta United or whatever they're called. Yeah, maybe he is, but that better is Celtic. I don't really see him ever getting to a bigger club than Celtic. I don't see him ever getting a move to the Premier League. There's clubs out there like Everton, Southampton, scrapping for the state relegation, who need a striker, and Giakoumakis, I think, why he's not even being considered by them.
Yeah,
I don't think he's seen as Premier League quality now, which I don't agree with, by the way. I think he would do a job for either of those teams to try and stay out of the relegation zone. But I think when you look at the overall picture of Giakoumakis, take everything into consideration, just take away our bias of him, and 26, I think, was it 26 goals and 58 appearances for us? That's a great record, and that's why I'm like, I can't and I think he's maybe thought, I'm better than this, like Juranovic. And then reality's hit him that it's like Atlanta and a Japanese side, the only teams that are bidding for you. He's maybe went, actually, maybe I should stay. And Ange's, like you said, went, no. You've made it perfectly clear you're better than this.
Yeah. Well,
I'll go find someone else. And I think, but like you said, it's the fee that's the surprising thing for us as fans, because of the recency bias and the goal scoring record that he's had for us. But like I said, and overall, when you look at, he's 28 now, there's not much resale value on him. You're a second choice striker. You've had a purple patch in the last season and a half, but you've been injured for half a season, and now you can't get past the first choice striker at Celtic. I'm not willing to spend any more than maybe 4 or 5 million on you.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the reality that we're facing.
Well, a player's only worth what a club's willing to pay. It's
Yep.
that simple. And a player will only join a club that are willing to be interested in them. Do you know what I mean? It's as cutthroat as that. But this leads me on to the next thing, Johnny, because Balls to the Balls 87 comes in. A very good morning to you, my friend. And he's saying, if 18 months is going to be the new standard to sell players. Now, this is the flip it that I was referring to at the top of the show, Johnny. How do we improve, though, in Europe if we're going to sell our best assets each year? Now, Ian McIntosh has already said he doesn't feel they are our best assets. I would agree with that, but I do think they were assets. I do think they were assets, and they were heavily used in the first team. And the one thing, it's going to take a bit of us getting used to as Celtic fans, full stop. That'll be Jen 6 months. Abelgard likely to be 6 months. Ideguchi will be a year probably by the end of this window. Giakoumakis and Juranovic, 18 months each. That is pretty quick to be turning these players round. You know what I mean? Having arrived. That'll be something for us to adapt to. Balls to the Walls' concern is, of course, if you keep flipping the players round and round, could you lead to a situation where every time you go into the Champions League, you've got that then almost ready-made excuse of, well, they're new to the competition, they've never played at this level before, they need to get experience in it first. And before you know it, you're in a complete cycle that way. Obviously, I'm being a wee bit tongue-in-cheek with that because I appreciate if you're going to be flipping players, naturally you'd be thinking it's going to be slight improvements, steady improvements on each player that you're bringing in for the departing one, and therefore they'll transition into the Champions League a bit quicker than the model before. But all that being said, it does come with two sides to it. One, I think we could be excited about because it means the manager's got a lot of autonomy on this. He's the one who forecasted this happening, and that is what's playing out. The other side to it, of course, though, is from the squad, it does keep it a wee bit kind of on the edge in terms of unsettled. And I don't know if that, I think that's maybe something that a lot of modern teams, in fact, if you look around our league, they flip squads all the time. The other SPFL sides, we're just not as used to it. It's maybe just something that in the modern era, Johnny, we're going to need to get used to.
Yeah, it might be something we might have to get used to. And I think, I mean, we kind of briefly mentioned this before we came on, Russell, before Regan and David joined us. And the simple answer there is if you keep flipping your best assets every sort of 12 to 18 months, then you're probably not going to improve unless, or you've got to be very clever when you do it. You've got to bring in better than the ones that you're moving on. Now, you've just said there that Giakoumakis and Gigi aren't the sorry, Mark, for the double initials there, but
Juranovic, for goodness sake.
But they're not the most vital assets, if you like, but their assets are all the same. My concern is that this year we're going to have this year's Champions League, which I think we can safely say we're going to be in without having to play qualifiers. My concern is that next year, if they keep going the way they are, it's going to be Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers that we're going to be worried about losing. And if we lose them, they're going to be a bit more difficult to replace than Giakoumakis and Juranovic, aren't they? So the simple answer there is I think if you keep losing your best assets, it's going to be very difficult to improve unless you unless can pull out that trick that he brings in better than what they are. And at the minute, as far as the Juranovic goes, it looks like we might have done. Very early days, obviously. It's only 2 or 3 games he's had, but Johnson definitely looks an upgrade on Juranovic.
Yep.
Well, I agree with that. And obviously the breaking news is that has signed Steve O'Matt. Very excited in the morning. I like that, Steve O.
Has he?
Yeah, it's announced on Twitter there, Regan.
Yes.
We are delighted to announce the signing of South Korea. They've started already. Regan, we're delighted to announce the signing of South Korean international.
Oh.
Youngu, I don't know how to pronounce it right. Subject to international clearance. Welcome to Celtic FC. So, Johnny, it's not all just about departures. As long as I say, if players are going to be leaving, you're bringing another one in. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be more to the manager's liking, more to the manager's taste. It's a market the manager obviously knows very well. The Asian market, I appreciate you can't just generalise it all. You worked in the J League, not the K League. But I would imagine, like so many times in the past with Celtic, we've got a firm grip on the leagues in England, not just the Premier League, but because it's next door to us. Do you know what I mean? Of course you do. You've got your finger on the pulse. and I would imagine that would have played a part in this one, Johnny.
Yeah, and I think if we think back to probably about a year ago, Ange did not just mention that, he didn't just say the Asian market. I mean, I know Korea is, but he did specify that the likes of Korea have got some good quality players, as well as in the Japanese league. This lad, just like everybody else, I'm not going to claim I know any more about this guy than anybody else. But he sounds like he fits the bill for Ange. He's younger. He's actually costing less.
Mm-hmm.
He scores a decent amount of goals, and he seems to have a very good work rate when he's on the park. He's a bit more versatile, possibly. So maybe Ange just pulling out that magic trick of moving on one of the assets and bringing in somebody better. Only time's going to tell on that one, obviously. But yeah, look forward to seeing him, and hopefully he gets in there. And he needs not only do we want, he needs to hit the ground running, unless we bring in another striker, which we were saying we needed before all this came up for Gigi moving on.
Regan, it's exciting times whenever Celtic sign a striker. It's as simple as that, and we can kid on. We're not phased by it, but we're all, the inner child in us always comes out, and you want your club to be signing strikers. Of course you do. It's always exciting, and I think they get a wee bit more of your attention as well when you're watching the game. Do you know what I mean? Oh, does he look sharp? Is he taking his chances? What's his first touch like? We'll be all over it more than you would be, like a holding midfielder, John. You just say, I look tidy. Whereas a striker, you're going to be into all the nitty-gritties of it all because they're exciting signings. I mean, let's be honest, we've not watched much of his YouTube highlights. Really looks good. So does everyone's really. I could probably put together some of my best goals for the high school playground, mate. I'm sure they would look all right as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not really defining, but obviously it's someone that Ange views as being an improvement, an upgrade, if you like, on what we currently have. We've got to back that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And I said this to David on Sunday. I like the fact that he's 6'1", and the fact that Ange has got a profile that he thinks, right, well, Giakoumakis was the type of striker I want. Like, the guy that can hold the play up, can bully defenders. Because, let's not make no mistake about it. See, in Scotland, what they're going to do to try and ruffle up Celtic is try and get physical. So if we've got a big 6-foot striker, then that'll surely ruffle up their feathers as well. So I'm happy with the signing. I'm just a little bit worried the fact that we spoke about this last week in Breakfast Bar, that I'm a bit worried that the fact that Ange is saying that it's one player in or one player out, right? Because we spoke about it last week, and I says that every good team has got what, 3 or 4 strikers. So why are we only adapting to 2 strikers? I mean, I said this to you a few weeks ago. I hate this argument that people say, "Oh, well, players will get bored if there's 3 strikers and there's 2 people fighting for a position." Every big club needs competition, so why are we only saying, right, we'll get one player in? And I think that's the one player we're only going to get in, because if you look at Ange, he said on Saturday that they're looking to get one player in, and he's the one player. So I'm just a little bit disappointed, Russell. Not the fact that the South Korean boy signed. I'm just a little bit worried the fact that Ange is settling just for the 2 strikers.
Do you believe him, Regan? Because it was only a week ago. It was last Wednesday night. He said, as it stands, there's been no bids. Players not going, players not in. In that time, we've seen Giakoumakis about to leave, Jens is about to leave, Juranovic has left, and we've brought in a striker. That's 4 pretty important pieces of business that affect the first team that Ange on Wednesday, just like 7 days ago, Wednesday evening it was making out he knew nothing about.
I do understand your point, but David did mention a few weeks ago on the Sunday Blether that
he's got a memory like an encyclopedia.
He does, I know, you're like an elephant, mate.
You've got to watch this guy. Everything you say, Regan's jotting it down.
David did mention that does Kobayashi coming in mean the end for Jens? And I did say possibly. So that was one of the backbone. I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Welsh leaves as well, Russell, because I don't see much time for him. and I do think we'll upgrade on Stephen Welsh in July or something anyway. The big worry for me is with Celtic is that a player like Carter Vickers, I think he's 26, is that right? So if he's going into the summer, and then Celtic might try and maximise their value, because that's what they like to do in the summer. But hopefully with a Champions League campaign for Carter Vickers, then that'll entice him to stay another year, because am I right in saying we've got automatic qualification again, guys?
Yeah, if we win the
Sure
league,
do, yeah.
it's straight in at the groups again. Aye.
Aye,
Straight in at the
so
groups.
no disrespect, but I think if we get into the Champions League, I don't think you'll be enticed by a Burnley or a Bournemouth or someone like that, because
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
yeah, I agree. David, Steve O'Matt, good contributor on the bus these days. Big Steve-O, legend.
Steve-O's been great, Russell.
Aye, he's been sound as anything, man. He's class. And he's saying he thinks there will be one, maybe two more coming in. He thinks the word suggests another one or two on top of Jen's leaving as well, which would free up wages. Then he just throws a wee grenade in there for you, David, to chew over. If Nisbet can be brought in relatively cheap, and I think the Millwall links yesterday have kind of, enhanced the thought process that maybe he will be cheaper than what he was before. Steve would take him domestically. And I do believe that he's referring to the fact, when he's saying relatively cheap, it's because suddenly stories emerged yesterday of a potential sort of 1 million plus sort of offer being made, and that could be enough to make Hibs bite. That surprises me. And I don't know if they would offer us at the same price they offer Millwall right enough.
No.
But
No, definitely not.
once you start seeing those sort of prices bandied about, it does pique interest again in this bit. And I don't think those stories will go away until he either joins, whether it be Millwall or someone else down south, or the window shuts.
Well, I said this in the group chat last night. I remembered he'd only been at Hibs for maybe 4 or 5 months, and the first bid that came in for a lower championship might have been even a League One side at the time. I can't remember who it was. And he put a transfer request in, so he's been itching to get away from Hibs since the minute he walked in the door. That's stepping stone FC for him, Hibs, and he made it abundantly clear when he put in that transfer request. So I think if £1 million the benchmark to make Hibs sell him, then if they would give us him for £1 million, then I'd be absolutely more than happy to take him at Celtic as a potential third choice, second choice striker. If that's so, it's very minimal risk. However, like I just said, and Regan agrees with me there, there's no way Hibs are going to give us him for £1 million. I think you look at it, just to be because of being petty, and I'd be exactly the same. By the way, I wouldn't be selling the Celtic for the same as a domestic rival that's already sitting ahead of you every year in the title race. Why would you want to sell your best player to strengthen a side that scalps you every week anyway? So I would be the same. I'd try and sell him to Millwall rather than sell him to Celtic. The only thing is, if you're willing to take 3 million, if you're and Celtic, say Celtic were willing to pay the 3 million, then why are you not asking for 3 million from Millwall? Why would you not try and get your better money?
What if David though? Right, I'll come back to you, mate. What if we applied the same logic, right, that we just have about Celtic selling players, what we thought was under the valuation or the rumoured valuation, and once he, starts, chucking his toys at the pram and says it's only Celtic I want to go to, and I'm not kicking above fees again, an agent starts saying, look, he's unhappy here. We know you were accepting bids of one club for this. Why are you not taking it from his preferred destination? He's been good to you, yada, yada, yada. And potentially, it might not only be Celtic that are selling players for below the valuation they may have had prior to January.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, at the end of the day, if we could get him for, say, I think there's Alan Wood saying you can get 1.52 million for him. I'd be happy for us to bring him in at that price tag. We've brought in a lot worse strikers for that price tag in the past, and Kevin Nisbet's a proven goal scorer, and he's a proven goal scorer in our league. I think he would do absolutely fine domestically, certainly. Whether he would be able to step it up in the Champions League, we won't know until that happens. And it's the same with the likes of O as well. So, I mean, It's minimal risk. I'd be more than happy for Celtic to bring him in as another option. But I don't see him as the. I think I said it a couple weeks ago. If it was a case of he's the guy to displace Kyogo or run him close, I don't think he is. But certainly would take him for the prices that are getting flung around. I definitely would.
It's changed. It's definitely changed my outlook on it as well, David. I know exactly what you mean. I just think you see those prices there. To me, I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a wee bit different. I had it in my head. Anywhere between 3 and 5 million Hibs would be looking for Nisbet from us. Then you see that report and it undeniably turns your head a wee bit and you go, do you know what? If Ode's going to need some sort of settling in time, there is still 3 trophies to be won here. We can't just do it to one striker. We've got one who's red hot in form domestically. It's only domestic issues we've got between now and the end of the season. That is an affordable fee. You know, I think there will be a wee bit more warming to that situation from fans than maybe there was a week ago. I certainly don't see that story going away until we get to the situation where he's joined another club or the window shuts.
He could be a deadline day. He'll be a deadline day signing, if anything. He'll be the one that we bring in right at the death. I think that's
Johnny. The other thing about the signing of O is it's another player joining. This is again something we've had to get used to. It's a 5-year deal. That has been pretty consistent since Postecoglou took over, Johnny.
I think pretty much everybody we've signed since Postecoglou's been a 5-year deal, which in reality is turning out to be a 3-year contract solidified to get our. You know, I don't mean it's a 3-year contract, but because we've got you on a 5-year deal, we're going to get more money for you after 18 months than we would do if you'd only signed the sort of traditional 3-year deal. We can argue whether that's worked out that way or not with the fees that we got for Giakoumakis. I think the Juranovic fee was, in reality, has probably come down to the realistic figure that we spoke about for him before the World Cup came along. When we discussed this a couple of months ago, when we first started doing the breakfast bar, and we'd put it around about 10 million, 10 to 12. The 5-year contract, I like it because it does give you that security. The players obviously seem quite happy to sign it. I'm just wondering if there's going to be any gentleman agreements in that these 5-year deals.
There's speculation there was speculation that Don Mackay had inserted daft clauses in the contracts when he first took over. But again, just to kind of to piss on that sort of narrative that Don Mackay was front, left, and centre of the contract negotiations and things. I mean, Celtic have been consistent with their contracts with players when Dom was in the building and not. It's been since Ange came in, Johnny, that it's been these 5-year deals. And I do think it's a good thing. Okay, on both Juranovic and Giakoumakis, as we've discussed, we might not have got the maximum value we thought we could get, considering the length of period of time they still had left in their terms. But at the same time, it does secure assets when you've got them on the 5-year contract, and it does make whoever the bidder is know they're not going to be getting guys, whether they're out of favour like Giakoumakis, on a whim or for free. We're going to make our money back at the very least. That's what the insurance policy of these long-term deals do. And also it means a buy-in from the player. So when they're joining Celtic, they're joining not for Stepping Stone FC, they're committing to long-term contracts at the club because that's the place they want to be. That's how it looks like from our point of view.
Yeah, to take it on a slightly different note then, change it slightly. What's Ange saying to these guys that's getting them to sign 5-year contracts when they know he's on a rolling contract? I know by the time we got him in a 5-year contract.
It's very good. Chris Kerr comes in saying the same thing, Regan, as well. He says, get Ange on next on a 5-year deal, Regan.
I don't think Ange will want to be on that 5-year deal where he said on the bus. I think Ange's pretty happy the way he sits. I think this is just to give him the security. If Peter Lawwell pisses him off, then he can just bugger off and say, well, I've not tied myself down here. I can go. You know? I don't think Ange will sign a new contract. Well, if it was me, I would give Ange a long contract, but I just think see if Ange was going to sign a long contract, he would have signed it after they won Celtic the first Scottish Premiership title. That's my opinion, and he's not. Yeah. And that says to me, right, Ange is doing it so that every single year he gets who Ange wants. Because if Ange doesn't get who he wants, then he can go, well, I tell you what, Peter Lawwell, I'm off. I'm away.
Yeah.
I've got no ties. So if you don't back me, then I'm not going to be shown up by the Celtic support because they know that I've got their best interest and they know that I want the best for this club. So if you're not going to back me, I can just walk away. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a certain truth to that, but Regan. But you can't just walk away. You can't just walk into the building today and say, "By the way, I'm going tomorrow." It's because his contract's rolling. He's effectively got a year's contract every day he wakes up, so he's got to give 12 months' notice. Likewise, we've got to give him 12 months' notice. That's legally how it's meant to work. I know in reality it probably wouldn't work that way, but I'm going.
Football's a different industry, though, Johnny. I mean, like the different managers can want go different situations. I mean, for instance, Ange could walk away. We've seen different managers like Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho, all these managers be on rolling contracts and walk away because they're just not happy with the situation.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, and I don't disagree with you, football is obviously a very different beast when it comes to industry. I mean, there's no other industry in the world like it. But it didn't, the 5-year contract didn't stop Rodgers walking away. But we got, as you keep going on, Russell, at one point he was the 10th best compensation that we got for a manager. It didn't stop. It didn't stop Tierney walking away. We got 25 million. Now I know it's a lot harder to get somebody to sign it. We can sit here and say there's a 5-year contract and sign it, and he just said no, I'm quite happy with what we've got. The question is, have Celtic offered him it and he said no, or does Ange just not want it? And he's just, I know he keeps saying he's quite happy with it, but it's protecting the asset, isn't it?
Yeah, I was very much all for it, Regan, in the summer, going, look, he's the biggest asset at the club. None of the players are. He is. So if you're going to go in the same principle of giving your assets on the field 5-year deals, where is it for Ange? But has my position moved on it slightly? Maybe ever so slightly. And, maybe there is a bit of the return of Lawwell that plays in my mind, and I can't help that. And I think it does on many people. But maybe it's good that Ange has kind of got that sort of perilous position with his contract, which is perilous from a Celtic point of view because it's, he's only here on a 12-month rolling deal. That's not long-term by any stretch. And that gives him maybe that wee bit more authority, that wee bit more power. Regan, is that the positives of him being on this?
Yeah, I mean that's my point is that when he goes to Peter Lawwell, he's got Peter Lawwell, but right exactly where he wants him. He can say, Peter, well, I want to be back here. I want to see this club going forward every single year. Stephen Andrews at the AGM, he said we have to evolve every year, and I don't think any Celtic manager spoke like that for a long, long time. I mean, Neil Lennon, as much as I love Neil, I don't think Neil Lennon spoke in the same way that Ange is. I mean, I don't know who recruited John Joe Kenny, but I think they got him for a car boot sale or something. I mean, the guy was just hopeless. So obviously, Ange's got he's got ties from Japan. He's got ties from all over the planet. And Celtic, as much as I said this to David a few weeks ago, I hope Celtic see all these people that Ange is building sources with to get all these players. I hope Celtic are learning from it and saying, see when Ange does go, we can go into these markets and be very confident that we can get deals. And we like, I hope that when Ange doesn't go, everything goes to shit, as I said last week, because Celtic are building a really good block, but we know what happened the last time they built a good block. They let managers down with signings, and then they don't be very happy. So I hope that Celtic as a club have learned. Michael Nicholson, I mean, if you look at my Twitter, Michael Nicholson's the next biggest thing. I mean, the guy can do no wrong. He may as well get a statue outside the ground. I mean, people forget this was a guy that installed that police officer guy. I mean, I think they forget that was only 12 months ago. But I don't know what Michael Nicholson has to do. I mean, forgetting about that, I just hope that Celtic have learned, Peter Lawwell has learned, and the whole board can say, right, well, see, as much as Ange Postecoglou is a good manager, he's taught us so much in the market that we can go to these markets and there's so many good players available. You know, because see, if Ange wasn't here, now I'm telling you, right, if Ange wasn't here, Celtic wouldn't go to the K-League to get a player. I mean,
Well, can I just jump in there again? There's another Lowell in the building that's been there for a while now that's worked with Ange Postecoglou in the past, and we never get to hear any sort of mention of him. And was he not the head of recruitment and scouting at Man City? And he's obviously part of the City group now. Ange is surely using his contacts within the City group, along with is it Mark Lowell? Was that his name?
Yeah.
They've got this massive scouting system that apparently the City group use to help find all these players from all over the world. Now,
to help find Ange.
Yeah, does Ange, when Ange walks out the building, Regan, and say Mark Lowell sticks around, do we then find out that there was more? It wasn't just a purely Ange production that was finding these players, or were they working together? Because I mean, we've not heard his name mentioned since the day he walked to the door, and maybe that's something that we'll be using moving forward, whether Ange is in the building or not.
David, I don't want to be cynical, right? But Peter Lowell's been at the club for 20 years. Now, Matt Lowell has been an agent, right? So you're trying to tell me that that Peter Lowell didn't speak to his son for the last 10 years? So I understand your point, but if Matt Lowell was such a big production of Matt Lowell, then Peter Lowell is that's his son. Matt Lowell's his boy, so surely you speak to him.
It's not like he's not tapped into his knowledge before, so why would you? Exactly. The point I know what you mean. I think the point Regan touched on a wee bit earlier, though, was really, really good. I think Ange has taught us, David, and opened up new avenues, shown the success rate you can get from a different market. He's shown what can be done, kind of almost single-handedly at times. It's felt like that anyway. And there has to be 100% notes getting jotted down left, right, and centre for whilst you've got a manager on a rolling term. If you ever were to leave, that is very important. We don't lose sight of what he did in that time and revert to type.
It's one of those things where it's like Ange has come in, and what he's doing isn't rocket science. This is what every big club in the world acts like. I mean, for Christ's sake, Brentford act like this. They're one of the pillars of modern football now, like the way they run their business, and they're a very small club in the grand scheme of things. But people look at them and say that's a model to follow. And I think Ange is just coming in. What's been going on here? Like, I think this is what you should be doing anyway. This isn't this isn't rocket science. This is how a club like Celtic should be running. Why don't you have a director of football? Why do you not have a proper scouting system? Why am I having to show the canteen lady how to turn the cooker on? It's beyond belief that the way that
I don't think Ange could even turn that on, by the way. So I don't think he could show that.
Well, anyway,
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying though? It's like what he's got. This isn't anything that should be really new to anybody, but unfortunately for us as a Celtic football club, it is. And it's like, I hope you've been taking notes, because this is what you should have been doing for the last 10, 15 years. So it's biggest belief to believe that it's taken a guy who, was being criticised. He didn't even have his scouting. He didn't even have his managerial badges or whatever, coaching badges for UEFA licenses and stuff. It's had to come in and show Celtic Football Club how to operate properly. It's madness. So hopefully he's doing some night school classes for them to work on their how to run a football club course.
It's even Johnny. I go on, Regan.
So I'm just going to say, you even look at clubs like Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hearts. All these clubs are now buying players from Australia, from Japan, from Korea, and Ange's really opened that market up to Scotland to say, look, you can go to this market. You can get. They've got Devlin, they've got Rolls, they've got Dundee United's got their goalkeeper from Australia. I think I'm right in saying that Dundee United's got their striker as well. So all of these clubs have went right. as much as they don't want to admit it, they went, right, Andrew's really opened up the avenue for us to go, right, well, there's definitely some good players here. Definitely.
He's definitely, I think, given more credit from what was probably an ignorant prism that the Scottish League was looking at these divisions, Johnny. Do you know what I mean? I think ignorance is bliss. No one followed the J League. No one followed the A League over here. I say no one, but you know what I mean? Barely anyone. And that was probably then we decided on that basis it must be shite. I didn't watch it, but we'll just judge it for being crap. And then, of course, you start seeing the body of evidence of players coming over from that league looking too good for the SPFL at times, some of them, already. And, of course, that will spread like wildfire. Interesting point, though, about the Mark Lawwell thing that Lanky brings in. And I think he does push back a wee bit quite cleverly here, if I'm honest, Johnny. I know it was Regan's point, but I'll come to you on it, because Regan's saying, did you not speak to Mark Lawwell in that time? Because if you had all those contacts then, like come we've only just, that door only seems to have became ajar since Ange came in. But to flip it, there has been a history of City Group dealings from Celtic over the last decade as well. So it does sound to me like they were in cahoots. How ambitious Celtic were going to be with that, I don't know. And maybe Lawwell thought it was playing safer by continually going to Manchester City. You bring them off your head, Boyata, Encham, Frimpong, Samaras,
Daniel Arzani, remember him? He was the next big...
Very good, very good. So, but undeniably, we have been using that link, I suppose, when Lanky puts like that. It's just, maybe Mark Lawwell was saying, look, there's a few guys from over here, a few guys from over there on our radar as well. I think you'd do well. Oh, I don't know. I'll just go for the City ones that are available. And maybe that was just a safer bet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just keeping it tight. So just to go back slightly on what David was saying about, you actually said ignorance is bliss, but also no excuse. And I think Ange he's come in there, and on what David was saying, he wants to win domestically, but he wants to do better than domestically. But you said it before, Russell, the last 10, 15 years, we were just happy to be better than Rangers, even when Rangers weren't even in the same league as us. We were just happy to keep plodding along. And Ange just come in and said, no, that's great doing domestic success, but we need to do more. On the Manchester City link, that was there is that link, and it was looking a little bit further afield, but it was being a bit lazy as well, of just keeping it in that little circle, if you like, of the Manchester City group, but we'll concentrate on the Manchester City players rather than having a look around and see what other contacts they have. And this Mark Law was meant to have plenty of contacts all around Europe and the world, but we just seem to stick with the Manchester City link. And some of them were obviously highly successful for us, and one or two were better than that, and we wanted to keep them. The Paddy Roberts of this world, who wanted to find out that he was at the best place he could ever be at and turned his nose up at us twice.
I'd like to read this, by the way. I wouldn't mind reading that for Patrick McLaughlin.
Yeah, Patrick McLaughlin, it turns out he did an essay and a report on Asian footballers, Euro snobbery and perceptions of Asian athletes 15 years ago when he was doing his HNC. Get that sent into Bhoycie'S Bus HQ, Patrick. We'll
I send it in,
and see how much of it is came true, mate.
I'd love to deep dive into the. I mean, we've not got time for today, obviously, but like just reading that, there's you just have to look at the media right now of like the racism getting just bleeding into their
absolutely terrible
into their reporting from the mainstream media. I'm not just talking about opposition fans on Twitter, but like the way some of the reports that are coming through from these
Keith Jackson one that said half the Far East or something. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how racist that is, to be honest with you. I don't think he's trying to say it from that prism. I think it's worded well, though, and I think an editor should be putting it through. That surprises me.
That doesn't surprise me, to be honest. But
well, fair enough. But I do think, I think with stuff like that, it's just so, it's just generalizing, like every player's the same sort of thing, and they're not, albeit, Hatate and Avata with the exact same hairdos are going to confuse me if I'm ever doing a fan cam live, Johnny. I tell you that, because it's the exact same sort of bowl cut they've got, and the way they float about centre midfield. I know that'll be a nightmare if I'm doing fan cam live. I'll need to make sure I've not had a dragon suit the next time I do one of them.
Hatate scored, not Avata.
You just have to hope Maeda scores them all, Bhoycie.
Well, speaking of Maeda Ratati, I just want your thoughts on the viral WhatsApp forwarding message that seemed to go become a live one last night. Either in their downtime, back in the day that would have meant, the players are out at the pub for a day out. Do you know what I mean? If they got given a couple of days off, but no. Maeda was diving head first into big foam pillars and ended up replicating something that reminded me of. Do you remember Gladiators, Johnny? You remember Gladiators?
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen it on gold.
On the podium with the two big sticks. So they had the big sort of beanbag.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call them. Do you know what I mean? But they were leathering each other with it by looks of things. Him and Ratati. I mean. There's something wonderfully naive about that enthusiasm, but when they're both standing on two beams with things that carry a wee bit of weight and they're cracking each other over the head of them, do you think Hans just rolls his eyes and thinks, kids, eh?
No, I think there might be a little insert put in their contract, saying dangerous sports and all the rest of it.
Yeah, as I was saying, could you imagine Tati's going to miss the game this weekend? Or is there another flu in the camp? Nah, he's got a sore ankle because Maeda knocked him off the trampoline last week. Some shot. You'll see it on Twitter. Oh, honestly. It's the way the messages were coming in. It was like, I'm at Braehead and there's this mad Japanese guy just diving headfirst at a trampoline. Then the next message, it says, that's turns out to be that Maeda. And then another man, Hatati's there too.
Regan, does it give you the fear when you see your players doing that? Down the trampoline and battering each other, or do you just think it's all good fun? I like people living their life as well, Regan. Do you know what I mean, in my opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even got a problem, Russell, because the last time we played Dundee United, we scored 9 goals. So hopefully this time we scored 10, because I remember you said this time last year, Celtic will score 10 one game under Postecoglou.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do think it'll happen.
No, like you said, I think it's important that these guys can take a break from football and be happy, because see, if we've got a very happy dressing room as well, that's important as well, Russell. Let's see if these players are with each other on a downtime. I've seen these guys were out taking Kobayashi for dinner last night as well. Yep, they were. So it just shows a good. So it just shows a good spirit within the Celtic squad. Yeah. So I think that's good for going forward. The thing I wanted the talking point I had for you guys is who's been the most underwhelming signing that actually turned out to be good?
Like you've been set up there, Russell.
He's stitching me up, isn't he?
It can be any. It can be from any era, any player.
All from any era, the most underwhelming signing that actually turned out to be good.
I made an RC is what you're saying.
Hell. Oh, I'm trying to think. I mean, Aaron Moy this season is undeniably the answer. That was an underwhelming signing. And again, people can revise it all they want. We had a Champions League campaign. He played about 16 minutes in the Champions League 6 games. You know what I mean? So, he wasn't quite up to it then. Has he been good since the World Cup? Very good. And even I've sang Aaron Moy privately behind closed doors. With my t-shirt on. I was greeting away. But trying to think underwhelming signings. Who's came in that you thought of? I'll tell you one. I'll give you one. I've got one, and his name came up in the quiz last night, Johnny. Do you remember Martin O'Neill was bringing in the sound of klaxon? But like we went 3-5-2 in our first season under O'Neill. I hadn't ever seen us play 3-5-2. I'm sure we had, right? But I had never seen it, and it was 3 big bruisers at the back. But Tom Boyd was getting a lot of game time as well, and you had Valharin and Mialbi and another, and we signed a Tottenham Hotspur flop, Ramon Vega.
Yes,
to come in, and I thought, wow. And I kind of followed Spurs a wee bit down south. That was kind of my team down south. No particular reason. I just used to do Klinsmann dives when I was young and kind of just called their progress after he's murder. Like, he is murder. He'll never be good enough. And then by the end of his 5-month loan, I was gutted that he didn't sign permanently. He was brilliant for us. He scored a double against Aberdeen in his debut, if I remember correctly, as well. He was an underwhelming signing. Anyone else got one? Anyone else able to dig us out?
Benkovic. Remember Benkovic? I liked Benkovic, and then I think he signed the transfer deadline day, and he came in, and then I thought it was really good, and then
he did well.
Celtic didn't actually manage to get him, and then a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, under Neil Lennon, when they were struggling in the 10-0 season, and they were talking about, we bring back Benkovic. But I thought Benkovic was a great player for Celtic.
Yeah.
Do you think Fraser Forster might drop into that category? Reserve goalkeeper from Newcastle United on loan?
That's a good point.
There you go.
Yeah,
after the first few games as well, you're a bit like, oh, what we got here?
Aye, because when he first joined as well, he'd been Norwich City's Player of the Year, but that was League One in England.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, is that really the level that we're aspiring for?
Because it was Paul Lambert that put Lennon on him, wasn't it?
Aye. Paul Lambert gave him the heads up on him. And I suppose, he was an underwhelming signing, but he came very good. He came very good for us. Aye, that was an interesting one, Regan. You caught me off guard there with that. I'm having to rack my brains, man. Let us know in the comments. One thing before we go as well. Remember, we will be recording the next episode of Judgment Day tomorrow night. Mark Kelly reads out 3 questions from the viewers. It's all pre-recorded. It goes out on the Friday morning. But we need questions from the viewers. Otherwise, it won't work. Now, judging by the amount of views it gets, the viewers are loving it. So do make sure, just go on the YouTube channel or comment on this video. I'll see all the comments anyway. Or comment on his previous videos. Wherever you want to leave a comment with a question for the judge, I will find it. I will pick it up and we can put them in best 3 questions Mark will read out. Don't worry if you've put in questions before. By all means, get stuck in all over again because that has been a brilliant segment on the bus. That takes us to an hour, guys. I've got work to start. It has been brilliant fun chatting to you all this morning. Thanks for joining me. Regan, you enjoyed yourself again in the breakfast bar, son?
Oh, mate, it's been great, and I'm sorry I can't be on next week, but it's been great to do a few weeks on the breakfast bar, and I hope to be back on soon, mate. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, loved having you on, mate. It's been brilliant. The Logue Traders. I nearly called you the Logue Brothers again there. The Logue Traders. Are you back next week?
I think I'll be all right for next week.
Yeah, should be fine, yeah.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you there. Anyway, keep your eyes peeled for loads more coming on the bus this week. As always, it has been a pleasure, you 4 guys. What better way to make you laugh, though, on a Wednesday morning? Big Chris Sutton. See you.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.